Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at a watch currently on Kickstarter. It's by a brand called Mileneal. You can see just about a little marking on the case there. So let's have a look at it. Opening box, little polishing cloth and a bit of information there, and we have our watch. So initial inspection, it is very similar to many of the kind of minimalist smart kind of dress watches you see out there, but the main thing they are presenting as pluses are the cheapness of it, but also the ever so slight difference to the dial design. So the price is going to be currently on Kickstarter starting at 95 Singapore dollars, so that's equaling around £50. So yeah, it certainly is very cheap. The RRP is going to be about $99, which is going to be about 75 quid. So let's talk about the specs then. If I put it on. So we have a 40mm diameter, so it is a perfectly suitable size, a 9mm height, so very nice tight height to it, and a lug-to-lug length of 45mm as well. So size-wise, really spot on for a dress watch. Nothing too different or exciting about that. Weight-wise, we're very lightweight, 41 grams. So it's very easy to wear, that's for sure. But it's almost a little bit too light in that it doesn't quite feel as nice quality as some other timepieces that may be, a bit more, about 60, 70 grams, which tends to feel a little bit more substantial whilst you're holding it. Water resistance, 3 atmospheres or 30 meters, so I wouldn't recommend swimming or anything like that. A lug width of 20mm, you get a 2-year warranty as well. And finally, the movement is a very sturdy movement. It's by Miyota, the GM10, so that's one of their standard slimline models, and that will give you 3 years battery life, which is pretty good. So let's just have a look at it in a little bit closer detail. So starting off with the dial then. I'll get it in focus. So the hands obviously are very similar to any other kind of minimal watches you see, sort of like there's ever so slightly pitched buttons with a small point on top, so nothing really exciting about them at all. The main thing is the multi-layered dial, which is a very nice touch, nicely designed as well. So we have this top layer surround and then a lower level around the inside. We also have a date window at the bottom, so if I just advance the date, there we go. So we have a date window at the bottom there, which looks a little bit deep, I don't know, it seemed a little tiny bit cramped to me personally, so I think that could have probably been given a little bit more breathing room, if you know what I mean. All the markings are printed, but they're all nice and accurately printed, all very good print work on the dial. So the dial itself, it does look good, but it's still fairly straightforward in terms of that classic minimalist watch that we see many times nowadays. Moving on to the case then, so we have a very high boxed mineral crystal. It is unfortunate that it's only a mineral crystal because whilst it looks cool, it may tend to get a little bit damaged around the edges, but it certainly does look the part. It's nice and clear as well. You can see we have a very nice clear view of the dial. And mineral crystals tend to be very clear in comparison to sapphire crystals naturally anyway. So it does look good, but obviously for longevity's sake, a sapphire crystal would have been much more suitable for hard wearing, for toughness. The case itself is rose gold and fully polished, as you can see, and then we have a pretty standard tiny little crown with a Mileneal M logo reasonably engraved on the end of there. Our case back is steel, so obviously they've decided to do this most likely because they've just got a massive batch of case backs made, because they do steel versions of this watch as well, and they've just whacked the same case back on everything, which is fair enough to them. It would have been nice to have seen a matching one, but at the end of the day, you're never really going to see it too much, are you? So there we go. The finishing and the build quality of the case, I mean, obviously we are talking about a £50 watch, so it's not amazing, but it is suitable for the price you're thinking of, that you're paying. So the edging isn't quite that sharp, and it just feels a little bit like it could be better quality. Moving on to the strap then. The strap looks really, really nice. It looks good on as well. It has like this kind of vintagey kind of roughness to it, which I think is really nice, and obviously as you wear it, that will only get better and better. The thing is, it's a little bit stiff to begin with, and also it's a little bit on the thin side. So I think in terms of the leather, it could be better quality, but at least it looks good. So that's a big plus. We also have some stamps on the bottom, so we have Mileneal genuine leather, and then we have a polished rose gold tang buckle as well. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on and we'll have a look at it in closer detail. I'll just give it a quick wipe. So here's the print work, so there's the logo and our hour markers there, very nice and fine. And here's our date window. So we have like this nice kind of champagne-y colour to the dial, but obviously a white date window, so it does make it stand out a little bit more than probably they would have fancied. And then here's our hands, so we have our nice pitch on them. Again, no tool marks or anything, so it's all very well manufactured, and they reflect the light nicely. Moving on to the case. So this is one side. There's our lug. Nice subtle little inward angle on that lug. Moving on to our crown now. Got the M logo quite accurately and deeply engraved on that despite the size. And decent grip as well, easy to use. Then moving on to our case back. Have our details around the outside and the logo in the centre. So moving on to our strap, our stamp work for our logo, and looking at the top, you can see our nice rugged grain and a darker stitch as well to go with it. Here's our keeper loops, very similar. And moving on to our strap, our buckle, Mileneal, accurately engraved. Okay, so I think at the Kickstarter price of only £50, I think it's a very tempting proposition, especially if you are on the lookout for this kind of watch. It certainly does beat sort of like Daniel Wellington, because it does feel like a better quality timepiece, and you're having a slightly different appeal, a different look to it as well. So that's a nice alternative. At the RRP, it becomes a bit more of a tougher choice. At £75, you do open up a lot more different watches, and if you spend a little bit more money at £100, you certainly can get a much better watch. So my personal preference is I wouldn't buy it at the RRP price, but I think at the Kickstarter price of only £50 or 95 Singapore dollars, if you're on the lookout for this kind of watch, then it's certainly worth a try. Okay, so this was the Mileneal Classic, and that's what it's all about.